From the nation's capital, Eye on Washington with Marilee Joyce. A weekly discussion about the federal issues most important to Nevada. And now, from Washington, D.C., here's Marilee Joyce.
Good day to you. I'm Marilee Joyce. This is Eye on Washington, the only statewide Nevada news program produced in Washington, D.C. Every week, Eye on Washington takes you straight to Capitol Hill for a discussion with Nevada's delegation and other leaders about the federal matters that matter to you. Today's topic, it's his big salute to our veterans. We'll find out one Nevada U.S. Congressman's veterans advocacy effort. And he is my guest today, Nevada U.S. Congressman Joe Heck. Thanks for being here today.
Always a pleasure.
Topic a lot of Nevadans care about, too.
Certainly.
Well, when he came to the Hill 2 years ago, Congressman Heck formed a Veterans Advisory Board to receive input from Nevada's veterans community on issues they're facing. Since then, he says, he's been working to solve them. And today on Eye on Washington, we'll tell you about my guest's work to reduce homelessness in the veteran community, his Hire Our Heroes effort to get veterans jobs, and his bill to protect the sanctity of military awards and service. Let's begin with homelessness. We've told you the growing problem priorly on Eye on Washington, that is homeless veterans. My guest, a member of the House Armed Services Committee who serves in the Army Reserve, says he's working to solve it, especially for our neediest veterans. The congressman has a new Vulnerable Veterans Housing Reform Act. It would help veterans receive the resources they need from the Department of Housing and Urban Development. Now, currently, a veteran's aid and attendance benefit, now that's the enhanced pension program provided by the VA for our nation's wartime veterans who are severely disabled or who have little or no income, can mean they don't qualify for housing assistance. Veterans eligible for aid and attendance benefit are defined as those requiring the aid of another person in order to perform his daily or her daily activities of daily living, and the income must be less than $12,256 a year. In a statement about his bill, the congressman said, quote, "Removing the aid and attendance benefit from the HUD income formula will ensure that resources are going to those most in need and will keep our veterans who have sacrificed so greatly for this country off the streets." So sounds like what you're saying is it's tough enough to need and qualify for that aid and assistance help, then you get it, and then you're punished for getting it.
Exactly. And this is one of the first things that one of the members of my Veterans Advisory Committee brought to me when we had our first meeting. He's very active in the disabled veterans community, and he came and told me about this situation where you have these severely disabled wartime veterans that get a disability pension, and then if they're eligible, as you mentioned, making less than somewhere around $12,000 a year, they can get this additional benefit called the aid and attendance benefit to help them with their medical care. So it's not additional money in their pocket to pay for groceries or rent. This is money that's specifically for their medical care. So that comes from the VA. And then what happens is that money comes into their account, and the Housing and Urban Development Department counts it as just discretionary income. And it increases and pluses it up.
Right, okay.
And then that decreases the amount that they're eligible for their housing assistance. So they said, since that's really an earmarked sum of money for a specific benefit, for a specific purpose, it shouldn't count as discretionary income. And that's what our bill does. It tells HUD, Housing and Urban Development, that they cannot count the aid and attendance benefit as part of discretionary income for the purposes of calculating a housing benefit. Some
exciting news just before we're taping this show. It did just pass the House. Congratulations on that. And what were you hearing in Nevada specifically that got you going on this bill? How serious is homelessness there for veterans in general, and then for this this special group?
Sure. Well, we know that nationally there's over 60,000 homeless veterans, and within Nevada close to 1,500 homeless veterans. And when we look at the number of veterans across the country and within Nevada that are disabled vets on a pension and getting this aid and attendance benefit and getting their housing assistance decreased because of it, there's tens of thousands of disabled veterans that this will benefit in making sure that they're able to get their additional benefit for their medical care and still get the full benefit that they've earned and that they deserve to help with their housing assistance.
Have you talked to any veterans that have been affected by this?
We have. We spoke to several, especially through the Veterans Advisory Committee that I have, and they say that this is part of the problem. Is the money comes in, it gets added to discretionary income, but they're really spending it on that personal care attendant who's coming in every day to help them with their activities of daily living. And the goal is to keep that veteran in their home because, of course, it's much more expensive to put them into a nursing facility, or if they have to go into a nursing home or into a long-term care facility. So we really can't have these two benefits being at odds with each other.
So just to be clear to our viewers and listeners, the $12,256 you need to be below to get the aid and assistance, you might get some extra money in, but as soon as it's in, it's siphoned right back out of your account. So it's not actually extra dollars in your pocket.
No, it is not. The aid and attendance benefit is not extra dollars. It's specifically for that medical care, so it can't be used to buy groceries, pay rent, or other purposes.
What's the support so far for the legislation? What are you hearing on that?
Well, we've gotten obviously widespread support through the House. It passed unanimously out of the Financial Services Committee.
How about the Senate?
We're hoping that the Senate will pick it up as we move forward, hopefully before we finish this congressional session.
Sure. Well, when we come back, we're going to shift over to another issue important to your veterans, and that's unemployment. That's right after this.
You're watching Eye on Washington with Marilee Joyce, brought to you by the National Mining Association, Caesars Entertainment, NV Energy, the Las Vegas Convention and Visitors Authority, Western Lithium Corporation, the Nevada Mining Association, the Regional Transportation Commission of Washoe County, and Skyline Restaurant and Casino.
America's minerals have made us a nation of self-reliant dreamers, shaping our world and the endless ways we enjoy it. But red tape often forces us to import more than half the minerals we depend on. Minerals we already have. We don't import our dreams. Shouldn't that go for our minerals, too? The National Mining Association. Learn more at nma.org.
You already watch Eye on Washington with Marilee Joyce, Nevada's only statewide program produced in Washington, D.C. But for even more news from Capitol Hill that affects you, your family, and your business, you need to read Nevada's Washington Watch, our online newsletter. In-depth reporting on federal efforts that impact you. Our exclusive Inside the Beltway column, putting a microscope on Nevada's congressional delegation. Guest editorials about what Nevada needs from the Hill. Nevada's Washington Watch, your watch on Washington. Subscribe today at nevadaswashingtonwatch.com.
All of us at Caesars Entertainment have something we want to say.
Play responsibly.
Play responsibly.
We don't want you to gamble if you've had too much to drink.
You shouldn't gamble if you're lonely or depressed.
And if you're under 21, you're not allowed to play.
No, no, no.
No matter which of our casinos you come to, our message is always the same.
Play responsibly.
Play responsibly.
Play responsibly. We know you're coming to our casinos to have a good time, and we always want you to leave feeling like you did.
Know what?
What?
Since I got adopted, I've learned a lot about these humans.
I know. I mean, check out these two. It's Flirt City over here.
Yeah, I noticed that. It looks like my human is definitely into your human.
Oh, look! I think she's getting his number.
Nice.
Your human's got some sweet moves.
Takes after his dog. Oh, look, they're doing that thing where they put their arms around each other.
She kicked up a leg. It's like in the movies.
That's awesome. Looks like we're going to be hanging out a little bit more.
And welcome back to Eye on Washington, our discussion of efforts on the Hill to help our veterans. My guest today is working hard on those issues, and it is Nevada U.S. Congressman Joe Heck. Well, last segment we talked about work to put and keep our veterans in homes. Let's look now at a connected struggle for too many Nevadans and certainly for too many veterans, and that's unemployment. When he set up that Veterans Advisory Board, Congressman Heck said he learned that in the midst of the tough recession, this group was especially hurting for work. And he says a top goal here was that the homelessness bill addressed earlier in getting veterans more access to job opportunities and workforce training programs. One effort he says he's fought hard for is a bill that combines the provision of the Hiring Heroes Act and the Veterans Opportunity to Work Act and other veterans employment tax credit provisions. The bill passed by the House of Representatives on November 16, 2011 and was signed into law on November 21, 2011. It's called Hiring Our Heroes and establishes a series of tax credits for businesses that hire unemployed veterans. And while the Veterans Opportunity to Work Act creates a job retraining program for older veterans who have been unemployed for 26 weeks or more, Job Help Veterans is certainly not a new focus for my guests. When he did that weekly Republican address to the nation last Veterans Day, Congressman Heck said, quote, "As our veterans transition to civilian life, they face a new challenge, finding a good paying job. Now, at the time of your speech, Congressman, the Nevada unemployment rate was 12.1%. The state veterans unemployment rate was 13.4%. Is it still as grim for our veterans?
It is, and nationally, even though the national rate is hovering at 8%, it's more than twice that nationally for veterans. And we see as more and more veterans are returning from the current theater of operations, remembering that over 1 million service members have been deployed to the Middle East over the last 12 years. They're having a very difficult time finding employment as they leave the service and transition to civilian life. And so these series of bills and initiatives are meant to, one, incentivize small business owners to hire veterans. It's to help veterans get trained in a job that currently exists. And one of the latest ones is actually to recognize the training that our service members already receive as a member of the military and have that count towards a civilian license, so where they can get an occupation on the civilian side without having to go through a whole retraining program.
What unique challenges would a veteran face that a non-veteran would not face getting into the workforce? Well,
first, they're leaving a regimented and very controlled society, really, when you look at leaving the service. And we want to put a lot more emphasis on the transition assistance programs that all service members are supposed to go through as they leave active duty, the TAP program, where they're introduced to how to get ready to go out into the civilian world and look for a job. So we have to make those programs much stronger so that they're getting the resources and the training they need before they even take off the uniform. And that's got to start, actually now we're looking at it starting when they actually enter the service and they get it throughout their service career. Now they come back, they may have been deployed overseas to a combat zone, they've got other issues that they're trying to deal with. Just acclimating back to civilian life in the United States makes it very difficult for them to go and interview for jobs.
We've done a lot with you on this program on worker training. That's been a very big issue to you, even in just getting civilians to work. Just basically with the technological world, et cetera, how different skills are needed, et cetera. But and again, we've talked about it regarding joblessness in general as well, and the need for folks to update their skills. But is this doubly important for veterans, and especially older veterans?
Well, it certainly is, because it ties into the issue we talked about in the first segment, is that, without the ability to get a job, these veterans are going to wind up on the streets and homeless. And so every vet that's coming back from the current theater of operations is going to have some type of physical, emotional disability that's going to require care through the Veterans Administration. The last thing they need to worry about now is having a job and keeping a roof over their head. And so this takes that extra step for those who have sacrificed so much for all of us to make sure that they're able to care for themselves by having a good paying job.
You're real big on job fairs. You got anything lined up or you're thinking about doing specifically for veterans?
Well, we did have in our last job fair, which was in August, we had a separate breakout session specifically for veterans, helping them polish their resume, interviewing skills, teaching them how to really highlight the skills and abilities that they gained from being in the service and how to translate that into a civilian job.
What, was it well attended?
Very well attended. We had over 50 employers there. We had a couple dozen veterans that came through and stayed for that session. And then they were able to go out and speak with the prospective employers and look for a job.
Have you heard any follow-up or heard from anyone?
We've heard from many of the employers saying that they've interviewed several of our folks that have come through and that they're coming back on second rounds of interviews and hopefully getting some of them back to work soon.
Let's look real quickly at some past work to fatten up veterans' wallets and help with the job needs. I want to start with that. You did a Disabled Veterans Tax Termination Act. Remind us about that.
Well, again, you get a veteran who's getting a certain benefit and then like a disabled pension, and then there's money being taken out of it, whether it's because of a tax or similar to the aid and attendance, is being double counted for something else. And what that does is eventually take that money out of the veteran's pocket. And again, we got to get back to making sure that they have the resources necessary to take care of themselves and their families so that they can stay in a home, keep a good paying job, and become a productive member of society after they've done so much for us overseas.
As we're wrapping up this segment, we've of course talked so much on this program with you and others about the continuing grim unemployment picture in Nevada. Again, I just want to emphasize, since we are talking about veterans today, is that number getting a little better, or are you still very discouraged about it?
The veteran unemployment still exceeds the general unemployment numbers, not just in Nevada, but nationally.
Okay, when we come back, we're going to find out about your exciting Stolen Valor Act, and that's right after this.
day, thousands of people in northern Nevada don't get enough to eat. 1 out of 5 children in northern Nevada go to bed hungry every night. But you can do something about it. Catholic Community Services of Northern Nevada has been providing help and creating hope in our community for more than 65 years. By donating food, time, or money, you can make a difference in a hungry person's life. When you make your generous donation to St. Vincent's Dining Room and St. Vincent's Food Pantry, you're helping to fight the scourge of hunger in northern Nevada. In these tough economic times, now more than ever, we need to help those less fortunate. To find out how you can donate to St. Vincent's Dining Room and St. Vincent's Food Pantry, call, click, or stop by, and together we can end hunger in northern Nevada.
Thanks to an ongoing commitment by America's mining companies, more than 2 million acres already have been reclaimed. To learn more about reclamation or other aspects of mining, visit nma.org, the National Mining Association.
You already watch Eye on Washington with Marilee Joyce, Nevada's only statewide program produced in Washington, D.C. But for even more news from Capitol Hill that affects you, your family, and your business, you need to read Nevada's Washington Watch, our online newsletter. In-depth reporting on federal efforts that impact you. Our exclusive Inside the Beltway column, putting a microscope on Nevada's congressional delegation. Guest editorials about what Nevada needs from the Hill. Nevada's Washington Watch, your watch on Washington. Subscribe today at nevadaswashingtonwatch.com.
This girl is very pretty. It's inciting feelings of jealousy in me. We should pick on her.
I'm insecure about some things, so I think we should put some me stuff on here. Maybe even some lies, too.
Yeah. I just want to be accepted by you both. So I'm going to send this to my friends so they think I'm cool.
Kids bully for all kinds of reasons. None of them are good. Find ways to get involved at flipthescriptnow.org.
How will new energy technology make our lives better? Will geothermal, wind, and solar energy be a bigger part of our future? Yes. And soon it will all be in our backyard. Learn more at nvenergy.com.
And welcome back to Eye on Washington, our discussion of veterans' needs and what's being done on the Hill to meet them. We've been visiting with U.S. Congressman Joe Hack. The Stolen Valor Act of 2005 made it a crime to lie about military service and awards, but it was overturned by the Supreme Court this past June. But Congressman Heck says he wanted to find a way to ensure the Medal of Honor, Purple Heart, and other military awards were shielded from fraud. So he made a tweak to the original in his new Stolen Valor Act, which passed the House Judiciary Committee. His bill punishes individuals who knowingly benefit from lying about military service or awards. It prohibits an individual from fraudulently claiming to be, quote, a recipient of certain military decorations or medals with the intent to obtain money, property, or other tangible benefits. It now is before the House, and it has a companion bill in the Senate. Meanwhile, we've talked about veterans' homelessness, unemployment, and news regarding protecting service and awards from fraud. But if you or a loved one has other veterans' issues to discuss with my guest, he says you can check out his website. And there you're going to find a large section offering all kinds of help to veterans. There's information, for instance, on how a veteran can get a home loan, life insurance, survivor benefits, education benefits under the Montgomery GI Bill, medical benefits, and a ton more. And I want to talk to you about the Stolen Valor Act. But if I'm a veteran, if I know someone who's a veteran, who am I going to deal with on your staff? Do you have veterans specialists to talk to me?
We do, actually. And because veterans issues are second only to housing issues in our office, we have 2 caseworkers that specialize in veterans affairs, both of whom are veterans. Oh. One of which is a wounded warrior from the current operations in Iraq and Afghanistan. And so he does a great job for us. And then because of the large number of female veterans that are coming back that have very special issues, we have hired a female veteran to help with that. So we have 2 caseworkers, male, female, both combat veterans. Both have actually had experience with the VA system themselves. So they're very well versed in how to help our current veterans navigate the system to get the benefits that they've earned and deserve.
Quickly, before we get to Stolen Valor, remind our audience about the Wounded Warrior Program.
The Wounded Warrior Program is a program where we take our combat vets from the current operations, give them some training, and then get them employed. And so through the House of Representatives, there is a program that we cooperate with where a specific wounded warrior will be assigned to a congressional office as a paying job for a period of 2 years. And so that helps that person, again, getting them back to work.
Sure.
So this is a wounded veteran who's still needs flexibility to their work schedule because they're still undergoing care and treatment, but it gives them an opportunity to learn a new skill and gets them back to work.
Excellent. You know, and now to the Stolen Valor. Congressman, my grandfather was awarded a Purple Heart in World War II. So to me, and I would imagine a lot of people who are non-military folks, don't work in the Pentagon, I would imagine this issue is very important and people care just about it as much as those who are veterans or affected by it. First, what needed to be clarified by your bill? What happened with the 2005 Act that needed updating?
Well, again, this was another issue that was brought to me by a member of our Veterans Advisory Committee, an interesting fellow, Lieutenant Colonel Bill Anton, the first Ranger from Nevada admitted to the Ranger Hall of Fame, Vietnam veteran. And the case against the old Stolen Valor Act was already underway. And he said, Joe, we've got to be prepared in case this law gets overturned. And so we introduced the bill as soon as we got to Congress back in the spring of 2011 to say, look, it's not a matter of lying, because that's the free speech that these veterans have fought so hard to protect. It's the idea that you're saying this in order to gain something, to commit fraud, to gain something of value. So we submitted the bill that said, look, we're not going to penalize the person for lying. We want to go after the person because they're committing fraud by trying to use an award or decoration to get a job, to get a loan, to move up, to get something of material value. So you can lie,
you cannot financially benefit from lying.
Exactly, and so it's the lie that's the protected speech, as was determined by the Supreme Court in their recent ruling, and actually in the opinion written by Justice Breyer, he left the pathway for Congress to come back and fix this by saying a more finely tailored bill that goes after material gain would not run the risk of being unconstitutional. And so that's how we amended the bill. Again, it passed out of Judiciary Committee unanimously, and it just passed the House last week. So it's on its way to the Senate. And we're in discussions now with Senator Brown and Senator Webb, who have companion legislation, hopefully getting it through the Senate in short order.
And you've said that this is truly a bipartisan bill, and there's a lot of support from both parties, correct?
There is. We had over 100 bipartisan co-sponsors, and it passed the House, I think it was 412-3.
You know, I want to get to quickly, just switching just for a moment to general help for veterans. You know, I mentioned a lot of things on your site. It's clearly was important to you to provide a very big area of your site to this. What are some of the top issues other than the big three we've talked about today that people?
Well, really, when you talk about veterans issues, it's usually it's navigating the Veterans Administration system and trying to get the health care that they need and deserve and earned. It's about education and trying to maximize their 9/11 GI Bill benefits. It's about making sure they can stay in a home. Those are the three major veterans issues that we deal with. And then we'll get somebody who's, you know, they received awards, but they never actually, they were given the award or awarded the award, but never received the actual medals. And so we help people go back and recreate their files and get them the actual medals that they would have won, whether it was Vietnam, we did one for a Korean War veteran, to help them get the medals that they've earned.
Okay, well, thanks for talking about the veteran stuff today. When we come back with our mailbag segment, we got a letter from Margaret Kay of Reno who has a question about healthcare reform. That's right after this.
All of us at Caesars Entertainment have something we want to say.
Play responsibly.
Play responsibly.
We don't want you to gamble if you've had too much to drink.
You shouldn't gamble if you're lonely or depressed.
And if you're under 21, you're not allowed to play.
No, no, no.
No matter which of our casinos you come to, our message is always the same.
Play responsibly.
Play responsibly.
Play responsibly. We know you're coming to our casinos to have a good time, and we always want you to leave feeling like you did.
America's minerals have made us a nation of self-reliant dreamers, shaping our world and the endless ways we enjoy it. But red tape often forces us to import more than half the minerals we depend on. Minerals we already have. We don't import our dreams, Shouldn't that go for our minerals, too? The National Mining Association. Learn more at nma.org.
There are a million places you'd never consider texting. So why would you do it while driving? Leave risky driving to the professionals. Stop the texts, and together we can stop the wrecks.
You already watch Eye on Washington with Marilee Joyce, Nevada's only statewide program produced in Washington, D.C. But for even more news from Capitol Hill that affects you, your family, and your business, you need to read Nevada's Washington Watch, our online newsletter. In-depth reporting on federal efforts that impact you. Our exclusive Inside the Beltway column, putting a microscope on Nevada's congressional delegation. Guest editorials about what Nevada needs from the Hill. Nevada's Washington Watch, your watch on Washington. Subscribe today at nevadaswashingtonwatch.com.
Thanks to an ongoing commitment by America's mining companies, more than 2 million acres already have been reclaimed. To learn more about reclamation or other aspects of mining, visit nma.org, the National Mining Association.
We're back with our closing segment of Eye on Washington, our mailbag segment. In this segment, we tell you about an issue the congressional mailbag page on the Joyce Communications website has been getting a lot of correspondence about. We read one of your letters on the air, and we invite our guest to you to respond to you right now, right here. And Congressman, your office been hearing a lot about health care, and I have a letter here from Margaret Kay of Reno, and she says, "Dear Congressman Heck, though you are not a fan of the current health care bill upheld by the Supreme Court, do you have other ideas of how our health care system should be reformed to help solve the issues associated with it? I'd be interested to know your thoughts and what a reasonable plan might be." What do you say to Margaret?
Well, Margaret, that's a great question. And certainly the first thing that has to be taken into consideration is that any health care reform has to be patient-centered. It has to preserve that relationship between a patient and their physician to make the health care decisions that's right for that patient. And so you have to provide stability and security for people with insurance. People that have a policy need to know that they're safe in that policy and that it's not going to be taken away from them by an insurance company at some point in time because they become sick. You have to provide a reasonable option for people without insurance, whether that's putting them into Medicaid or allowing them to buy into a program. But we have to get people that don't have insurance an option. And also, most importantly, is we have to bring down the spiraling costs of health care, because we can do number 1 and 2, but if health care costs keep going up, more and more people are not going to have access to quality, affordable health care. So we've got to concentrate on bringing down those costs.
So you're willing to work with her and find a good idea?
Well, we actually have a piece of legislation, H.R. 4242, that attempts to accomplish that.
All right, and thanks for being here on all these issues today. Nice to see you again.
Thank you, Marilee.
And that is it for this week's Eye on Washington. Be sure to join us next time as we discuss more important federal matters and their impact on you in Nevada. And for news anytime on how federal issues affect you, please visit our website, joycecommunications.com. And while there, be sure to like us on Facebook and follow me on Twitter. I'm Marilee Joyce in Washington. Have a good day.